Hi guys. Online distribution. Unless your movie screens at big festivals like Sundance, so getting scouted and picked up by Netflix on the spot, you're most likely going to be playing this cat and mouse game to some extent with the online channels. There may be several distributors or sales outfits circling, but wanting to know what the others are thinking about your film, unwilling to make the first move. It can be a weird place. I ran a screening of Offending Angels in London for the various sales outfits, and it was the oddest experience, the oddest event, with people taking sideways glances at the others in order to try and work out what they thought of it. It was a long way from the festival screenings, where the audience is there to enjoy themselves, be entertained and show their approval. When I took Angels to the Cannes Film Market, obviously I'd booked myself into the whole deal, got a producer badge, booked a couple of screenings, but I'd not got 10 minutes in and people were leaving. It's the cruelest thing for the filmmaker to witness. I can't recommend it. It's a producer's gig, truth be told. Certainly not the director's, because the audience is cold and thinks nothing of watching 10 minutes and then leaving, having chatted on their phone throughout. The second screening, the film hadn't been running more than 10 minutes and I got pulled aside by a sales outfit called Ardent International to say they wanted to rep the film and do the deal right then and there. It's nuts. The world has transformed a great deal since those days, and eventually, as I say, you're going to want to get your film online in some shape or form. It then becomes the deal you can cut with them, and that will depend on how they perceive your film doing, having crunched the numbers. What someone like Netflix will do, though, is go for a complete buyout for, say, 2 years, so you will not see a penny of royalties in that time, nor will you be able to show your movie on any other platform. You're tied in. So you need to ask yourself, is what they're offering worth it? After 2 years, chances are your film really won't have any momentum left in it at all. Unless, of course, it was a festival darling, a smash hit, or has an actor in it that went on to stardom. Anything's possible. This being the case, perhaps keeping your true budget under wraps can be a really good idea, if there's no real way for them to ascertain exactly what it may have cost. I mean, a 10k film can look like a 150k film with no problem. If it's well shot, it sounds good, so long as nobody outside the movie knows that, then when the buyer comes sniffing, why can't you start around the 150k mark and see what happens? Instant profit. If you say, well, it was made for $300, then they aren't going to offer you 100,000 or even 10,000, are they? Stands to reason. All that said, most online channels will only talk to an aggregator, that is, an outfit that basically vets and then asks you for a bunch of deliverables that ensures the film is at a certain minimum level. FilmHub, for example, do exactly this. With no upfront fees, they take 20% of whatever it gets bought for, although you are still at their mercy, because you have to rely on them to tell you what they sold it for in the first place. And that's my beef with all of this. In the bad old days, you'd sign an agreement and they would take everything until your movie covered their costs. The trouble being, their costs were never completely transparent. A film could remain in the red indefinitely whilst they flew around the world first class, eating caviar in 5-star hotels off the back of your movie. How were you ever to know? And now, with online, you would think that things could be far more transparent, that the numbers would all be there in this digital age, in black and white, for all to see. But of course they aren't. It's still a dark art. No one has any idea how much a given program or film is being watched at any given time except the channel itself. And this is bad for anyone on a royalty deal, like actors, writers, and even the production companies that made the thing in the first place. But that's essentially where we are right now. I do know that when I was looking at this stuff, I could of course have uploaded direct to Amazon, but doing so would give me a poor deal and not deliver anything like worldwide distribution with them. Only my territory and the US, if memory serves. By going through an aggregator, I got worldwide, and that made more sense to me. Of course, this could all change in a heartbeat, but you need to pay attention and find out for yourself what the current landscape is, what's possible and what's not. Anyway, with all that said, FilmHub, as with most aggregators, are very beady about delivery. Your film has to be a certain size, certain quality, in specific formats, ProRes, PAL or NTSC, etc. But it must also come with a trailer, 6 differently shaped posters, a set of still images, and last but not least, closed captions. These can be secured from a provider like rev.com, relatively cheaply, but you really must take the time to check what they have done. Even though by now you will have seen your film 1,000 times and maybe cannot bring yourself to watch it again, you have to, because this is the pointy end, where decisions matter most. Closed captions are going to be vital for some of your audience, and you simply cannot afford for them to contain errors or omissions of any sort. It will haunt you forever, so get them done and get them done right, then check them. I found typos, wrong words that sounded right but gave a completely different meaning, and often the caption would get shown on the screen before the actor had even said what they were about to say, destroying the timing, the discovery, or the search for a word, the spontaneity that an actor gave it. It also omitted a critical church bell in the distance, which was key. Don't get lazy or slapdash at this late stage, because this is for the audience itself, part of the third mountain. The other thing they'll most likely ask you to do is cut your film into chunks, allowing for ad breaks. Some channels will play the film through uninterrupted. These will be the subscriber deals, where audiences pay an upfront fee for uninterrupted viewing, but others will be free to view, where the channel inserts ads to gain revenue. It again can feel heartbreaking, sacrilegious to take a knife to your baby, but it has to be done. This is, after all, the film business, not the film romance. If your film doesn't engage, it won't sell. If it doesn't sell, it won't get picked up. End of. This said, it took me a good while to summon up the energy to even start. To my mind, initially, it felt like it would be impossible. The film was seamless in sound and image, and there would be absolutely no way that I'd be able to chop it into 8 places. Into 8 places to chop it up. There is leeway though. You aren't being asked to murder a scene halfway through. They give you a chunk sizing of like 8 to 15 minutes. So there's a latitude to find a place where you can manage somewhere in there. It's still grim for the director, but a necessary evil. I was actually surprised. I surprised myself with how easily Grays actually did cut up. But take the time to label the chunks as well, the ones you're left with, because this is purely to assist the viewer to come back in should they pause it. Don't be taking out some petulant crap with the aggregator, a finger thrust at the man at being asked to do this, because it's all there to help you and make it a palatable and appetizing proposition to any potential audience. You're only hurting yourself and your film by not fulfilling all the requirements, even though some of them aren't obligatory. Likewise, take the time to fill in the requisite hashtags. If you consider your movie is going to be deep in a library of literally thousands of other films, tens of thousands, on Amazon or wherever. So think how limited their search engine appears when it offers suggestions as a viewer. The likelihood is your film will only get offered up is if they search for it specifically, knowing it's on there. That's the honest truth of it. So at least early on, the algorithms are not in your favour, when there really are massive blockbuster movies out there and smaller movies with massive stars attached. You can begin to see my point. With Grays in between, I put in over 50 hashtags. They need to be valid or they'll be nixed. But when I drilled down into my film, it actually covered a fair few topics, or visually covered famous landmarks. So take your time with it. Chew it over. Leave a pad by the side of the bed to jot more down when you think of them at 3 a.m. and can't be asked firing up the laptop. I promise you it's time well spent, and they'll look on you kindly for doing it. Not only that, they'll serve your film. Also, every time you want to go in and change or add something after that initial setup period, it'll most likely cost you to do so. So it really behoves you to take the time to get it right first time. You need to give your movie every chance of getting revealed, discovered, in the if you like that, you might like this sort of deal. Put yourself in the shoes of a lazy viewer sprawled on the sofa, something we've all likely done, and make it easy for that person. Experienced no-budget filmmaker Noam Kroll has the following to say: nothing is more discouraging to indie filmmakers than the current state of distribution. If 100,000 people watch your 90-minute movie on Amazon SVOD, current figures say you'll be lucky to make $3,000. If you rent or sell your film through TVOD, far fewer people will discover it, and it'll be even harder to recoup your budget. Larger films with recognisable talent attached can still benefit from the more traditional distribution routes. But even then, there's still no guarantees. One answer is to look for ways to increase your AOV, your average order value. With SVOD or TVOD, your average transaction could be anything from 20 cents to $7. Either way, it's horribly low. But if you then think a little creatively, you can produce unique offers more valuable to you and increase your AOV considerably. Some of the ways of doing this are hosting in-person exclusive events, setting up premium virtual screenings, selling physical media direct to your audience, partnering with brands, non-profits or schools, or making ancillary products to sell with your movie. With a little thought, you may come up with a few more. But if, say, 2,000 people engage with a premium offer of, say, $50 over the course of a year, that could generate $100,000 in revenue, which is more than you'll ever manage from a standard online distributor deal. It's about personalizing your movie experience and putting some effort into the sale and distribution of it. Who knows, you may even enjoy the experience of traveling around the country or the world to events you organised, meeting and interacting with your fans. And if you manage to get 2,000 people on board, getting 5k or 10k is not unreasonable. Even if you fall short by tenfold, you are still ahead of where you would be with SVOD. For these reasons alone, many no-budget filmmakers should look at doing a self-distribution window first to take advantage of some of the very real possibilities. Online will always be there, and they may be boosted by the platform and sales that you've created in your self-distribution model. I'm not saying it's an easy undertaking. It'll mean a huge amount of work, but it also means at least a return from your initial investment of life and time making your film in the first place, rather than being taken for a sucker by all the powerful distribution mechanisms that now rule the viewing planet. And if you've done your due diligence on your socials throughout the process, you'll not only have a good idea about whether the alternative route is viable, you'll be able to set viewings up. Any which way you'll arrive at this point, having done this 10-day course, fully locked and loaded, with your marketing tools all in a row. Trailer, stills, EPK, posters, making of, website, online presence, movie ready to go in various formats and sizes. Good.